Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, back with John Lenhart, my hero. Hi John.
How you doing?
Today we are looking to talk about dissolve. Dissolve is a major talking point for John and I because every problem, every situation, anything that bothers us in our life always has a dissolve. And this takes it back to ground zero, that there's nothing there, and we can then go on with our day without creating more problems with ourselves. Now, I'm going to put it on to John. He's a professional on this subject. On you go, John. Tell us more about dissolve.
So I have to preface all of this by saying that this came from a person named Dr. Russell Ackoff. He's kind of my mentor. He would have been 100 years old this year. He died when he was 90. And if you're familiar with Deming and continuous improvement, Dr. Ackoff was beyond all of that. When he spoke, no one got what the guy was saying. And it's a shame because he actually explained everything that's happening in the world today. And he actually explained how to handle everything. So this is very near and dear to my heart. The other reason why this is near and dear is Dr. Ackoff was administrator teacher, like me, big picture, like me, external processor, like me. So I really don't like consultants because they treat everybody like robots. And when this guy was presented to me 3 years ago, I wanted to dismiss it. And the minute I saw everything he said, I'm like, this is a guy who understands people are human. He understands what's really going on. He has amazing stories, and he can't explain any of it from the brain. And so what I want to share with you is this is from Dr. Ackoff. He used to say, there are 4 ways to approach a problem. There are only 4 ways.
Yeah.
So every time I watch someone approach a problem, I instantly diagnose it one of 4 ways. Number 1, absolve. You can ignore it. Maybe it'll go away. We know that doesn't work. Resolve. You can treat the tangible effects. So if you punish or reward, you're trying to resolve the problem. Solve. You're dealing with the tangible causes. Everybody thinks that solve is the answer to everything. And when it comes to machinery, like Deming with continuous improvement, and when it comes to equipment, solve does, answer everything. Solve is the way to handle every problem. The problem is when it comes to humans, when you solve their problem, you create 3 more problems for that person, and the overall strain of your solution is worse than from the original problem. And that's really the crux of everything I love talking about, is everybody's out there. All these consultants are out there problem solving human issues. And when you problem solve a human issue, you make it worse. In order to deal with humans, you have to dissolve their problems. You have to deal with the intangible cause. If you don't deal with the intangible cause, then you will not make this problem completely go away.
Yes. Oh, right. Okay. So this is going to open up a can of worms. Okay. So when you were talking about the 4 ways to deal with a problem, okay, first of all, people have got to diagnose the problem. There is a problem first. Okay. Now, usually this is because our balance is off mentally, physically, or spiritually, whatever way you want to look at it. Something is off. It makes us feel something's wrong. So we then have to go diagnose the problem and then diagnose how we're going to fix it. Now, most people will usually take on this, in my belief, they will act through anger, or they will like some sort of emotion to try and solve the problem. Now, when they try to work on emotion, it's not them and it's not the other person that they're thinking about. They're thinking about, how can I get this out of my body? It's more expression. So expression does not always, it's not going to solve the problem. Resolve, dissolve, it's not going to do any of these things. It can escalate the problem. And this is what I've been speaking to a lot about my clients about recently.
Right. So the thing is that that solve, when you take a step forward, I like to look at it as you're taking a step forward, you're trying to get immediately, I'm here And I think the answer's out here. I take an immediate step forward. That's solve. So now I want to introduce one more concept to explain the difference between solve and dissolve. Solve uses analytical thinking. And Dr. Ackoff used to say there's 3 steps to analytical thinking. Humans do this naturally. You can hand a pen or something to a little kid and you can watch all 3 steps. Step 1 is when you're given the thing, you take it apart. So the first step is take the thing apart. Step 2 is identify the purpose of every part. What does this part do? What does this part do? What does this part do? Then third, you put it back together. Our brains, human brains, are naturally analytical, and that's how you solve. That's the essence of problem solving is take the problem, diagnose the, be aware you have a problem, like you said, then take the problem apart, find out what each part is contributing to the problem, fix it, and put it back together. That's solve, that's analysis. Our brains naturally do that. It's called categorical thinking. Our brains naturally break everything apart and put it in categories. Now, you and I did this epic 3-part series with Ed Mabry.
Yeah.
Because in, I believe it was September and October of 2019, Harvard Business Review did 3 articles. This was the cover story. They did 3 articles about how our brains naturally categorical think and the dangers of that. And one of the dangers is stereotyping.
Yeah.
Our brains silo and stereotype and accentuate the differences between things beyond what they exist. If you solve a problem with a person, you will stereotype them, you will prejudge them, you will be racist.
Yes.
Our brains are naturally racist. They naturally take things and break them up and categorize them and define them as those things. And that's the issue. Our analytical brain is naturally racist. And when we solve problems with people, we are creating racism.
Yeah. And just while you are on this subject, I'm very passionate about it also, same as yourself and same as a lot of other people. We just know how to dissolve it in a way that others aren't looking at the moment, okay, until they start to come on the journey with us. Now, if we were to remove the word racism from the dictionary and put it as categorizing, right, if we were to look at it in another way, that's racism gone for a start. So what we're naturally doing is categorizing people, places, countries, religions, all these things we are categorizing. So in a way, if we were to start calling racism categorizing, it's the same thing, but it doesn't sound like we're committing a crime. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, and then sexism is the same thing. All of that abuse is the same thing. So what Dr. Ackoff said is, and this is key because people say, John, are you against analytical thinking? I'm not. But here's the key. If your first step is analytical, you're going to do damage. Your first step needs to be synthesis. And so Dr. Ackoff called it synthesis thinking, is I know the problem is this way. If my first step is the opposite direction,
yep,
then I can be analytical and I'll get there. If my first step's analytical, I can never get synthesis big enough. So synthetic thinking is to take the thing and see what is the greater system this thing is a part of, define that system, and then look at how this contributes to the greater system, and that will define it. So synthetic thinking is how you dissolve. So the whole key, when I watch people, if your first step is at it, you're analytical, you're solving, you're going to create damage. If your first step is away, or I call it a backward step, you're synthetic. So we showed this. Daryl Davis, he's this black blues musician who had 200 KKK, guys give him their robe. How did he convert them out of the KKK? Did he go, stop being a racist? Let me tell you my perspective. Let me tell you what I know. Let me tell you. Did he go like that?
No.
His first step was backwards. His first step was, tell me about you. Now, I will tell you, there's a whole nother thing. He's a dissolve savant. He's a guy who did this perfectly because he never took a forward step. And he could have taken a forward step after the backward step. But this guy's a genius because he never took a forward step. So what he did was he asked about you, and then he asked until he found something that gave you energy, that gave him energy. Then he did the storytelling, which was last week's episode.
Yeah.
He built a relationship, he said. Then he built a friendship. And then eventually these people gave him his robe. Did he ever say, don't be a racist?
No.
Did he ever take a forward step?
No.
Did he ever do analysis?
No.
No.
Oh.
This is a living, breathing example of dissolve. And it's all the opposite of the way our brains naturally work. And when you present this to people, they freeze up. Because you can't deny what Mr. Davis did. You can't deny the effect of it. You can't deny that this approach has been making it worse for 50 years.
Yes.
And Ackoff said this 20, 30 years ago. He said, don't do this. Take a backward step. And what did Mr. Davis do? He looked at the intangible. He basically said, look at what is the cause here? It's the feeling, it's respect. That's intangible.
Yeah.
He went after an intangible cause, and he did that. And that's the thing. So whenever I watch anybody, and I'm telling you, 99% of consultants are going to take a first step forward, they're going to analyze, and they're going to try to solve your problem. And they are making it worse because the minute you take the step forward, you cannot take the step backwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you know, when you make that step forward, as you're talking about, that can make the whole situation a lot worse than what it was when you originally started. So you want to help the situation, but taking that forward step. And we were talking about the samurai as well before in our previous videos that we've done, and we'll put a link to that on this video as well as Mr. Davis. We'll put both links on, and even maybe something to do with Dr. Ackoff as well, so that people can realise that this has been going for a long time, you know. And not only have you got your own kind of patent on dissolve, but you've also you've got proof to show that it's happened through life naturally.
Right, and so that's a great point. So Dr. Ackoff, he didn't even really understand how to do this intentionally. And a lot of people, when you see examples of dissolve, you just go, that's really good problem solving. Dr. Ackoff called it elegant problem solving. So an example, and I wrote a post about this, an example he gives on this is he said, right after World War II, there was an office building, and all these people were complaining that they had to wait all this time for the elevators. And so the company hired consultants to come in and measure the wait time. So they had to pay money for that. And they found out, they had like 4 times the acceptable level of wait time for the elevators in this apartment building. So then they hired a group to come in and say, how do we solve this? And so they spend all this money, they come back and they say there's 3 ways to solve this. Number 1, you can put more elevators in, which means you're knocking out apartment buildings. So you're going to pay more for the elevators and you're going to lose rentals. Yeah. You can't keep the building going that way. They wanted to put computers back then, just after World War II. That didn't solve the problem. It didn't get down to the number. They wanted to have staging. They wanted to have certain elevators go this high, certain elevators go higher. That didn't solve. So they have the classic story of they have the brainstorming session. The guy says, we really got to solve this. No idea is a bad idea. What's your idea? Someone gives an idea and they instantly go, that'll never work. No idea is bad. What? Someone else gives an idea, that'll never work. And pretty soon they look at this young guy who was sitting in for the HR rep, just out of college. And they said, what's your idea? And he goes, I'm not going to give an idea. Every idea, you just shoot it down. And they go, no, you have to give an idea. He goes, well, I think I can solve this for a couple $100. And they did his idea and nobody complained anymore for a couple $100. What was the answer? The answer was they installed mirrors on every floor. Did that improve the wait time of the elevators? No. People still waited just as long for the elevators, but they stopped complaining. Why? Because now they're looking in the mirror and doing this, or they're using the mirror to look at other people.
Yeah.
The issue was boredom. The issue was impatience. We're human. What's the cause of people being upset about the elevators? The elevators are too slow. Okay, problem solving consultant, that's going to make everything worse. No, dissolve it. Let's take a backward step. What's the intangible cause? I'm frustrated. I'm impatient. How can I entertain you while you're waiting for the elevator? Put a mirror up. Problem dissolved.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff that's out there, and you can do it. I love to teach people how to do it intentionally.
Yeah. And intentionally, I love that word, because when you intentionally want to help a situation, you need to step back to understand it and look at the bigger. I know we get big picture, small picture. I am big picture, but when you stand back, even if you are small picture, you still get a better view of what's going on, which will allow you to understand and feel more.
Right. So I want to end this with an example, kind of a test for everybody to take. I saw this on LinkedIn. It was brilliant. Okay. And I'm gonna take you through how to dissolve this with a conversation I had with Ed Mabry. Okay. So on LinkedIn, there was this guy who put this video up and said he was asked this question during an interview. So this was like an interview question, like a psychology question.
Yeah.
And it's basically, you're driving down the road in a car, you have one open seat in your car. You pull up to a stop sign, it's raining, and at the bus stop, there are 3 people. Number 1, there's the woman of your dreams. Right? Number 2, there's your best friend who saved your life. Number 3, there's an elderly woman who's sick and dying if she doesn't get to the hospital in 20 minutes. So the question is do you give the seat to the woman of your dreams? Or are you going to miss out on eternal happiness, basically? Do you make up for this guy saving your life by giving the seat to your best friend? Do you give the seat to the elderly woman to save her life? And if you think about it with what we know, and we're going to eventually talk about compassion, that saving the woman is a compassion answer, okay? Helping your best friend is a justice answer because you owe.
Absolutely.
And then the woman is your exhorter answer. So really, they're trying to use this to find out, are you going to feel what people are feeling? Are you going to be fair? Or are you going to be trying to achieve the greatest thing?
Yep.
Now, here's the issue. Whatever person you pick, you've created a problem for the other 2 people, and you've created your own problem, because now you have to live with the fact that you didn't help these other 2 people.
Yep.
So that's the way life is with people. However, how could you dissolve this? And there's a way to intentionally dissolve it. And I had a conversation with Ed this week, and I posed the question to Ed, and I said, Ed, I can challenge him. Show me how you dissolve this. Well, solve is to go forward. His first step's got to be backwards. You're in a car going somewhere. What's the step backwards?
The step backwards would be not to stop.
To get out of the car.
Yeah. Just to go.
Everything you do staying in the car is going forward.
Yeah.
The first step in dissolve is, so that's how I teach people this. And Ed's learned how to do this himself. And he goes, well, look in order to take a step back, I'm trying to go forward in the car. I got to get out. He gets out of the car. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. You're out of the car. Now, what's your intangible cause? Ackoff used to say, what is it you want to achieve? And if you can't tell me that, then why are you even talking to me? Okay. What is it you want? I want to be with that woman. Well, why can't you just be with her? So you be with her. Now, what do? You hand your keys to your best friend because you trust him and let him take the woman to the hospital. Dissolve.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect.
This is what I teach people to do. You can intentionally dissolve it. And the longer you listen to 99% of consultants, you are creating 3 problems for yourself by listening to them.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. I absolutely love that. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to use that now. I'm going to have to use that with people, because that was I didn't even think of that. And I'm quite good with things like that. And I genuinely, I didn't see it. I didn't see it coming. Perfect. Perfect. That's great. Well, listen, thank you. Thank you for today, because that has taught me something even more, and it's got my brain thinking. So I'm going to go and think about it for the rest of the day now. So next one we are going to do is Compassion Why, and that will be on Thursday coming. So I'm looking forward to that, because I am a Compassion Why, and I was Server How last week, so it's funny how we can put it towards me on it. So I like talking about myself, let's be honest. So I look forward to that, and thank you so much for your time today again, John, and thank you everyone else to watching, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.